Michael Van Runkle here for HotCars.com. I'm out in the Johnson Valley off-highway vehicle area with the Polaris RZR that I've got for about another month. In my previous videos, I went over some of the details and mechanicals that make the RZR so awesome, and I did a little bit of off-roading, but now I'm here to really test it out and see what it can do in more dangerous, more challenging terrain. I've also enlisted a Jeep Gladiator Rubicon as sort of a controlled experiment. The Polaris is a Polaris RZR Pro XP4 Ultimate. Long way of saying it's got 181 horsepower, turbocharged 2-cylinder engine, and sort of a mix between all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive. The Gladiator is basically a factory stock Rubicon with the Mopar 2-inch lift that gets it upgraded Fox shocks and springs and control arms and all that. It's funny because they both have Fox suspension systems, components, and other than that, they're pretty different vehicles. The engine's in the back, the engine's in the front. I'm excited to compare them and see how they do out here in the sand, on the rocks, with some whoop-de-doos, and just have a great time today. So let's get out there and see how they do. But in the meantime, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us out. The big question for me is how the RZR's Fox live valve shocks with 3 settings for comfort, sport, and firm, plus the X button on the steering wheel that firms all 4 corners up, like if you're in the air or if you're about to hit a big bump. How does that allow this mid-engined off-roading super machine conquer the entire desert terrain? The Gladiator, meanwhile, is the pickup truck version of the Jeep Wrangler. It's got 3 locking differentials. It's got the long travel suspension now. It's got a 280 horsepower, 3.5 liter V6 and an 8-speed automatic transmission, but it's also like a 4,500 pound pickup truck, whereas the RZR only weighs just over 2,000 pounds. I think this is about as good as you can get from the factory without going for like a 700 horsepower Ram TRX or something absurd. And I spent a fair amount of time driving this thing in mildly technical situations, but nothing like we're gonna see here at the home of the King of the Hammers. Let's get after it and see how both of these things do. High gear, I'm gonna put it in comfort. And first, let's go for a ride. Let's put it on firm. I mean, that's just absurd. I just did that in rear-wheel drive only. Let's put it in 4-wheel drive. We go up that one. Well, I'd say putting it in 4-wheel drive definitely seems to sap some of the power, and low means you can't get quite enough speed. I think I could have come up that even faster and high. Just for the sake of showing you, I'm going to put it in comfort and go through some of these little hoops. Let's switch to firm. It's just a whole different deal in firm. And then if I hold the X button, it's like I can just accelerate to a different level. It's just crazy what the different shock settings do. It makes a night and day difference when you're out here going a lot harder. Turn on 4-wheel drive here. it's just a really fun few hours. You can tell this is exactly where the RZR is built for. It's right at home in every environment that I found here, whether it was sand, rocks, dirt, a lake bed for going top speed. The Gladiator is also at home here. It just is not in the same category as this RZR, which is truly the ultimate desert toy that I've ever driven. The rear tires on the RZR are getting absolutely chunked up. It's got only like 160 miles on it total in its life. I assume the tires haven't been replaced in 160 miles. So that means if you have one of these things and you're coming out here for hours, you better invest in a lot of tires. And it does freak me out. The RZR does not come with a spare. I've seen people that have a rack for the back where they can keep a spare tire. That's probably a good idea. Also, you know, you have heard about the axle shafts breaking on these things because you're putting them under so much pressure. There's so much torque, they're just gonna shear. And the sway bars are literally thicker than the axle shafts. So maybe carry a couple of those to spare also. Playing around between 4-wheel drive, 2-wheel drive, comfort, sport, firm, and with the red button on the steering wheel really shows that maybe I was a little wrong in my first impression of the RZR, where I thought comfort mode was the best mode. When you're out here and it's really getting up and down and you're maybe catching a little bit of air, you want the firm shocks. Every time I tell anyone I've got a RZR for a couple months, they say, don't those things catch on fire? The answer is yes. RZR did have to issue some recalls because of poor manufacturing quality in their gas tanks for a few years. If you have one of those RZRs, make sure you get the recall done. But Pat McCardle at Polaris told me modern RZRs have completely left that issue behind. The only issue is don't keep your spare gas cans, if you're carrying stuff like a spare tire and spare gas cans, don't keep them in the back compartment, because if your gas can leaks, like most gas cans do, then you might leak gas directly onto the engine, and that's a good way to start a fire. I'm so glad I got a chance to take this thing out to where it really belongs, here at the Johnson Valley off-highway vehicle area. I would also hope that I have more time to take it out, maybe to Hungry Valley, and maybe do some more challenging rock crawling, now that I know just how capable this thing is. Once again, a big thank you to Polaris for loaning me this RZR Pro XP4 Ultimate. And thank you for watching. I hope you learned something and enjoyed watching me blast around at top speed here in the desert.